and Happy New Year. We want to welcome you back to another year of the Energy Examined podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Canada's oil and natural gas industry, issues affecting the industry, and resource development across the country, then this is the podcast for you. We're your hosts. I am Tracy Larsson.
And I'm Tonya Zelinsky. 2019 was a really big year. Energy Examined launched its very first podcast in May, featuring a story about liquefied natural gas. And then we stayed strong throughout the year. We talked about some really cool innovation with the Alberta Methane Field Challenge, the socioeconomic benefits of offshore oil industry to Newfoundland and Labrador, and then even how energy development in Western Canada is actually positively affecting businesses in Ontario, either directly or indirectly related to industry. Of them all, I'd have to say that my favorite was sitting down with Dale Swampy, who is the president of the National Coalition of Chiefs. He and I had a really great talk about how energy development on Indigenous communities is actually positively affecting them, and it can help advance towards economic reconciliation.
That is a topic that I want to see more of in 2020 on the podcast. Really a look at Indigenous participation in the industry. What does that look like, and why it's important for the Indigenous communities and for the industry itself. So that's a topic that I really want to talk about more on the podcast. First up, though, in January, we have Marcus Extevor, and he is the Executive Director of the Energy COSIA Carbon X Prize. So for people who may not have heard of COSIA, that's Canada's Oil Sands Innovation Alliance. So it's the Energy COSIA Carbon X Prize. And it is a very cool competition. It's a global competition. Teams from around the world have been challenged to take CO2 emissions and turn it into a completely new product. And some of those products are even edible.
That sounds very intriguing.
I know, you're surprised, right?
I am a little surprised by that. And I am on a diet for the new year, so that might help to know how many calories are in CO2.
Okay, one other conversation that I want to point out that's coming up in 2020 as well is also a conversation with Wes Jickling, and he is the new chief executive for COSIA. So we're going to talk a little bit about the push to innovate in the industry and move further and faster with environmental performance.
So innovation seems to be the key going ahead.
Innovation is the key.
Yeah. I'd like to say that I could predict what 2020 is going to bring for us, but I really have no idea what the next year is going to look like. If there's one thing I've learned about Canada's oil and natural gas industry is that you cannot predict the future. It is constantly evolving, from new projects to new innovation to new policies coming out of government. It always looks different. But the one thing you can rely on are the people that work in the industry. We have people working from British Columbia all the way through Newfoundland and Labrador. So it is the people that make our industry great. And we do hope to maybe see some more stories about those people in the future. But we will continue to adapt and innovate as we go. And as you can see, we've taken that personally. Innovation is key, which is why you're looking at our faces here on our first video podcast of Energy Examined. We'll continue to do audio podcasts, but we're going to mix in a little fun here and have us do some video. So we do hope that you like what you see here.
I also want to mention to people that if you want to leave us comments, you can let us know some topics that you might like to see us cover on the podcast this year.
Yeah, you can find us on Apple iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. So thank you so much for joining us in 2019 and listening to some of the things we have to say, and we do hope you continue to join us in 2020. We look forward to seeing you.